Hi everybody. So it's been a while. Life has been crazy. Everybody is still sleeping. It is almost 5:30 in the morning, and today's the girl's birthday party. Yay! So I'm gonna actually be making one of my mom's and my dad's favorite cakes. It's called a hot milk cake. My mom's best friend Debbie Meyer, her mother, I believe it was her mother, could have been her grandmother, Betty, actually, that made this recipe. I've never been able to find it on the internet. I haven't searched for it in quite a few years, but it's a super tasty white cake. It's dense with a fudge frosting. So I'm going to do 2 layers. You can do 1 layer, but we're going to do a double layer hot milk cake for the girls' party. Let's get to the ingredients. Okay, so we have our ingredients. Like I said, it's 5:30 in the morning, so the lighting is not the greatest. But we have, let's see here, we have now the recipe calls for a stick of butter, which is different everywhere you go. It is a 1/2 cup of butter, so these are half sticks, or 1/4 cups. So we're going to use 2 of them. We're also going to need 2 cups of flour, 2 cups of sugar, a heaping teaspoon of baking powder, not baking soda, baking powder, a teaspoon of pure vanilla extract, 4 eggs, and the Crisco is out to help us grease our pans. All right, let's put the ingredients together. All right, so we're back. So one key thing that I almost forgot to mention was, while you're getting the ingredients ready and cooking all of this, preheat your oven to 375. That's Fahrenheit for all of our out of the US viewers. Not sure what it is in Celsius, but Fahrenheit 375, because we are going to turn the temperature down just before the cakes go in. So we are going to put our butter, we're going to melt our butter. Now it is key that we follow the measurements for the ingredients exactly, because like I said before in previous videos, baking is more of a science and everything has to be exact, while cooking is a little more, I guess, loose. You can have a little extra of this, a little extra of that, but for baking, you want to make sure everything's exact so it comes out exactly the way you want it. This way your cake's not too flat, it's not too puffy, it's not too dry, it's not too wet. Now, my mom is an excellent baker. All growing up, she made her own birthday cakes. I have taken over that role for her birthday. So we did have this on Christmas. My mom's birthday is on Christmas. So I've become pretty good at baking this. I do like to do a double layer. My mom usually uses a bundt pan for bundt cakes and then just fills the whole thing with her fudge frosting. I like to do the double layer so you get that little bit. I'm not a big chocolate fan, but I like cakes that have that middle, so you get a little something in between in every bite. So even for the non-chocolate cakes that I've made, I like a little something in the middle. So I like to melt the butter first before adding the vanilla and the milk, just to make sure that it melts completely and wholly. So for those that don't know, Debbie Meyer is actually she's an Olympic swimmer. She's retired now, and I believe my mom said that she's teaching swim lessons. But yeah, they were best friends growing up. She was in my mom's bridal party. And I guess this is a little taste of, you know, memories and all that for my mom. And my dad just really likes the fudge frosting, I think. All right, so now that that's all melted, I'm gonna turn it down a little bit. I did have that on medium heat. I'm just gonna turn the heat down a little bit. We're gonna add all of the vanilla. And I think in the ingredients, I totally forgot to add that it's 1 cup of milk. I use whole milk because that's what's in my refrigerator. It can be made with a 2% or a 1%. I believe my parents, so we're just gonna add this. We're gonna add it all in there and we're just gonna keep stirring until it gets warm. Yeah, my parents use, I believe it's a 2%. Lactate milk, and it works perfectly fine for this recipe. I'm not sure if an almond milk would work with this recipe or not. I've never tried it with anything but cow's milk, but I do know that it works with the Lactate, which is lactose-free milk. We're going to do this until the milk is hot, which I think that's where it gets its name, hot milk cake. So it gets a little tricky because we are going to be adding this to sugar and eggs, and we don't want to cook our eggs, so we're going to do it alternately. So I have an electric stove, so you may want to do the sugar and the eggs first. My electric stove will keep things warm on it, unlike most people's stoves. So you may want to do your eggs and sugar first and have your flour and all that ready to go so that your milk doesn't get too cooled off. It's okay for it to be a little cooled off, but you don't want it to get cold. All right, so now this is very warm. So I'm turning the heat off, and then I'm gonna come over and we're gonna mix up our eggs and sugar and our flour. Okay, so first we're going to just take all of our flour, put that into our mixing bowl. Now I probably should have just measured it and put it in there instead of dirtying up another bowl, but it is okay. And then our heaping teaspoon of baking powder. We're just gonna stir that in together. Now I am going to use the stand mixer for this recipe. You can use hand mixers. That's what my mother did all growing up. I believe that's still what she does. She prefers the hand mixer over her KitchenAid. And now I'm going to bring the KitchenAid over and we're going to do our eggs and sugar. Okay, so I'm going to crack the eggs directly in there. You can crack them in a bowl separately. I'm going to hope to not get any shells in there. Now, as of right now, we are having the bird flu is going through a lot of our birds. I actually noticed the eggs in our grocery store were almost gone. So eggs are going to be skyrocketing soon. I do fortunately know a lot of people that have chickens. I'm hoping that their chickens are safe and okay and that we can continue to get eggs from them. I'm going to rinse my hands very quickly. All All right, so I'm gonna put the beater on, and we're gonna beat the eggs really quickly before we add any sugar. And I'll speed this up so that you don't have to listen to our hand mixer. Okay, so now that our eggs are beaten, we're going to just add all of the sugar, and we're going to let that all mix together. And of course, that is in my way. It's always difficult when you're trying to videotape yourself doing something. Things end up in the way, they end up on the wrong side of things. All right, so I'm gonna speed this up once again. Okay, I almost forgot that I locked it. So we're going to alternately add the flour and the hot milk to this. So we're gonna alternate. And first I'm going to add a little bit of flour. Once you add the little bit of flour and you turn the mixer on, just do it very slowly so that the flour doesn't like puff up into your face. So add. It's very difficult to do this so that you can see how much I'm adding. All right, I'm just gonna like push in a little scoop of it. Hopefully you're able to see how much I put in there. And I'm going to speed it up. Every time I put this down, I am going to speed it up so that you don't have to listen or watch it slowly spin. Okay, so now that we've added that, we are going to add a little bit. Now, normally I would keep this running. You know, I'm still going to keep it running. So I'm going to add just a tiny amount. Hopefully I do not hit the camera or get in the way of the camera. I'm going to add a small amount of the, probably going to count to 2, of the hot milk mixture. And I'm going to do it while this is running. So I'm going to not speed it up, but it might get a little loud, so you might not hear me. Okay, so it's difficult to show everybody how I'm doing everything, but so I keep it running just so that the hot milk doesn't cook the eggs in there. So we're gonna add some more of our flour mixture. And remember, nice and slow to begin with, and then you can speed it up. All right, so now I'm going to add some more of the milk mixture, but I'm going to keep this running on low. Okay, and now we're going to add some more of our flour. Now right at the end I will scrape the sides just to make sure it's all combined evenly. Okay, and now I'm going to add the remainder of our milk mixture while it's still running. There was more milk than I thought, so I did not add the remainder of it. We're gonna add the remainder after this next flour addition. It doesn't matter if you start with flour and end with flour, as long as you're alternating it somewhat evenly. So I'm gonna put the rest of this flour in there. I'm blocking the camera, I know, but the angle that I'm doing it from is a little difficult. Scraping down all the sides just to make sure we get all of that flour and baking powder in, or as much as possible, in our dish. All right, now I'm going to start on low again and then work our way up. Now I'm going to add the rest of the milk mixture while keeping this running. Make sure I lock that. No, I did not. Okay, now I'm going to scrape the sides and then mix it one more time, just to make sure that we get all of the flour off the sides. I'm going to try to not put my hand in the way. Yeah, it's all off the bottom too. And you can see the egg, none of the egg cooked. It's all very, very velvety looking. It's all very smooth. Try to get most of this off as much as possible. All right, we're gonna mix it just one more time. And that, my friends, is the batter. So now I'm going to show you how I prep the pans, and then we'll pour this batter into our pans. All right, so we're back. So now, my mom has been doing this. I think she's moved on to using the butter wrapper. I'm still stuck in my old ways, how my mom originally taught me, and I still use good old-fashioned Crisco to make sure that nothing sticks in my pans. Now I did spill a little bit of flour in there. That's okay. So I literally just take a paper towel and Crisco. As much or as little as you want. Crisco is pretty cheap. And I feel like because I don't use it for anything else, except for when I'm making crust, pie crust, which I don't make many pies. Maybe twice a year I'll make a pie. But yeah, so it's pretty cheap and I don't often use it. But yeah, you get like a nice little hunk of Crisco on there. I don't know if you can see that. And we're just gonna rub it in. Make sure you get all the way up the sides and in the corners until your pan is very shiny. I don't know how shiny it looks at almost 6 o'clock in the morning. But I'm doing pretty good on time. I'm gonna get a little more, tad bit more Crisco for the other pan, just a little bit. So if you're using a bundt pan, do the same thing for the bundt pan. Obviously, it's just one pan. I will say it's a lesser cooking time if you use 2 pans. So if you're using one bundt pan, you're going to leave it in the oven for the entire hour. If you're splitting it and using 2 cake pans, you're going to only put it in for 30 minutes. I found this out, or until the toothpick comes out clean. I still use a toothpick to test my cakes. I'll show you how to do that too. So after we've greased them, we want to flour them. So I just sprinkle a little bit of flour in one. That should be enough. You can always put more flour in. And I literally just shake it about. Sorry, my ring was hitting the pan. Make sure you get it all the way up on the edges. You really want to make sure you get it in that little crease area. Sorry about my fingers. I was tying so many balloons. I have boo-boos on my fingers. They're fine though. It's from the balloon. I do this over top of the other pan. I don't know if you can, yeah. So I do this over top of the other pan so that any excess just goes into the other pan. For the second pan, I usually do it over the trash can. So that one's good. I'm going to need a little bit more for this guy. Usually there's not too much excess. A little at a time. But you can do it the same. Do it over your trash can, do it over the other pans. You don't get flour all over your countertop. Yeah, I don't know if this is called something else, besides hot milk cake. Like I said, my mom's best friend's mom growing up made this. I believe it was her mom. It could have been her grandma. I never actually asked, but I know that it was somebody related to Debbie Meyer. So now that our pans are greased, I'm going to dump the other one into the trash can just to make sure that it's not too floury. Okay. We're going to, as evenly as possible, we're going to pour the batter into these. Now I just kind of eyeball it. There's no method or science behind what I do, ever. It's literally just eyeballing everything most of the time. A bit more in this one. I'm trying to hold this with one hand so the camera can see, and it's starting to get a little heavy. And we're going to be scraping out every ounce of goodness that's in there. It also does not help that I'm left-handed, so it's a little difficult to see sometimes what I'm doing. And now it is 6 o'clock. I'm going to be getting the girls up soon. So now before I put these in the oven, I'm going to reduce the temperature to 325. So my oven right now is at 375 Fahrenheit, and I'm going to bump it down to 325, and I'm going to put these on the same rack, in the middle rack, for about 30 minutes. And we'll be back to check on them after 30 minutes. All right, so we're back. I just pulled them out of the oven. Now I'm going to show everybody at home what the toothpick taste, or toothpick test, say that 10 times fast, is. So you just literally push the toothpick in, pull it out, and you can see there's nothing on the toothpick. And you can test both of them right in the middle, and it comes out clean. So these were actually in the oven for, I checked it at 25 and gave it another couple minutes, 28 minutes, 2 minutes shy of 30 minutes. And you can see right around the edges, it's, I don't want to touch anything. It's pulled away a little bit because they've been out for literally 3 minutes, but it's browned a little bit, which is exactly what we want. So I'm going to let these sit in there for about 5 minutes, and then I'm just going to turn them out of the pans. We want them to sit in there to cool for a little bit, but then we want to turn them out so they don't stick to the pan. And then once we turn them out, we're going to let them completely cool before we frost them. I did look on Google. I Googled hot milk cake, and I did see some recipes. Actually, Tim McGraw, I believe, has the exact same recipe as us. However, all of the recipes are after 2020. So I'm wondering if somebody shared this recipe and then everybody started making it after 2020, because I know back in, I believe it was 2010, I Googled it and I could not find anything on the internet about it. So it is on YouTube and Google already, but yeah, it's a pretty old-fashioned recipe, and we'll be back to frost it in a couple of hours. All right? All right, so we're back, and we are going to now frost the cake, and it's like a chocolate fudge frosting. So we're going to use 2.5 squares of baker's chocolate, 2.5 cups of 10x sugar, powdered sugar, confectioner sugar, whatever you want to call it, and then a whole stick or a half a cup of butter. These are 1/4 cup sticks. So, and then we're going to use 2 tablespoons of milk. We may need a little bit more milk, but we're going to do it a tablespoon at a time. All right, so let's get to melting the butter. We'll be right back. Okay, so I've turned the heat to medium, and I'm going to put my butter in. We're going to let this melt, and then we're going to add the chocolate. So we are actually still preparing. So it's now 11:30 in the afternoon. The girls' party's at 2 o'clock. We put the girls to bed a little bit early for their nap. Dada's downstairs cleaning the toy room, living room area. And as soon as I'm done frosting the cake, I am going to decorate, because we didn't want to decorate while the girls were awake. Still want it to kind of be a little bit of a surprise. I feel like all of everything is always last minute. We do it to ourselves every year. Maybe next year I'll invite a few people over a little early. But it's always a last minute thing. Sometimes I feel like it takes the butter forever to melt, especially when you want it to melt quickly. Okay, now that most of the butter is melted, I'm going to actually add the chocolate. So it's 2.5 squares. Sometimes when I do the double layer, I do 2 batches of this. It may be enough for 1 batch, but you have to, so once your cake is completely cooled, that's when you want to start making this, because this cannot sit. Once you've basically cooked this, you have to immediately frost the cake. So you can't mix this and then just wait until the cake's cooled and then try to frost it. You'll just have a giant clump of fudge, really. So I usually, if I'm not fast enough, I will make a second frosting for the top layer. That one little piece of chocolate still. You want to make sure everything is incorporated, the chocolate and the butter are incorporated before you add in the sugar. Now, if you have a double boiler, that's what my mom uses. It seems to work really well for her. I just do it in the bottom of this and hope for the best. So I may not show you, if I do a second batch, I may not do it for the camera. I may just go ahead and do it and then show you how I'm frosting it on top in the final. Okay, so now that all that butter and chocolate is mixed, I'm going to turn it off. Slide it off of the heat. Hopefully it's still in the camera view. It is. Put it down a little bit more. Okay, so we're gonna add all of our sugar. I'm gonna try to, well, you know, I'm just gonna bring the camera over once this is done, and I'll just have to cut it so that it isn't gonna make anybody sick. So we're gonna stir this. Now you can see how thick it is, right? It gets really, really super, super thick. All right, so now we're gonna add our 2 tablespoons of milk, and it's gonna soften that up. 2 tablespoons to begin with. And if you need more, you can always add more. 1 and 2. I'm going to keep that out right next to us in case we have to add a little more. And you'll see it get a little bit softer. There it goes. And you can see how it's starting to already harden. So we're going to work quickly here. I'm going to stir and stir. And I'm probably going to do this in 2 batches, which is no problem. Make sure it's all incorporated. Okay, we're gonna bring this over and I'm gonna put this on the cake. Okay, so I'm gonna try to use just this 1 batch. I'm gonna scoop some of it on there. You really have to work quickly though, because it does once it cools, and it cools fast, you can't really spread any more on there. So I'll probably end up doing another batch. That's what I usually do. Alright, now that that's on there, I will throw the other. Yeah, no, we'll do it this way. Now there's a good, I could have cut the cake, but there's a good layer in the middle there. So if you really want it to be even, you're gonna have to cut off the tops of it, but I don't care about being even. So I just spread this on as quickly as I can. And the second one I'm gonna show you, I will kind of pat it around the sides and fill in that gap. But we wanna get the top as quickly as possible before it solidifies. So this way it looks all nice and pretty. All right, now I'm gonna go and make another batter, or yeah, another fudge frosting to put for the sides, and I'll be right back as soon as that's done. All right, so I did do another batch of the fudge, and I went all the way around and just kind of smushed it in there. Now you can take a paper towel and clean up these edges, but it literally just breaks right off, which is why you have to do it so fast. It turns into a fudge, so it's no longer like spreadable. Yeah, so you have to do it really quickly. So I did not actually film myself squishing in the sides because I had to work fast. But yeah, that is the hot milk cake with the fudge frosting. And I'll be curious to see if the girls choose this or their strawberry shortcake cupcakes. So we'll see, and I'll put a link in the description of them actually eating this cake, whether it's today or tomorrow. All right, thanks for watching. Bye.